The massive exploration vessel Celestial Observer drifted silently into the outer edges of the Sol system. Its sleek, metallic hull reflected the distant sunlight as it slowed to begin its standard survey procedures. Commander Vax stood on the observation deck, his 4 eyes scanning the holographic display of the third planet from the star. The blue-green world seemed unremarkable at first glance. Initial scans complete, Commander, reported Officer Krell, his scaled fingers dancing across the control panel. Standard Class M planet. Nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere. Large water bodies. Nothing unusual. Vax nodded slowly, his cranial ridges furrowing. Begin deep biological scan. Something about this world feels different. The crew exchanged glances. Commander Vax had led 17 successful exploration missions. His instincts were legendary throughout the Galactic Confederation. Hours passed as the ship's powerful sensors cataloged the planet's lifeforms. The results began pouring in, and the science team grew increasingly agitated. "Commander, you need to see this," called lead biologist Trell. "The biodiversity readings are off the charts. We're detecting millions of distinct species." Vax moved to the science station. His interest peaked. "Explain." "This planet has undergone multiple mass extinction events, yet life has rebounded each time with increased complexity," Trell said, pointing to the evolutionary timeline. "And look at this. The planet has produced at least 7 distinct apex predator classes over its history." 7. Vax's voice betrayed rare surprise. Most worlds produced 1, perhaps 2 dominant predator types before evolutionary stability was reached. "There's more," added Krell. "We've detected signs of artificial structures. There's an intelligent species." The observation team focused their sensors on the bipedal creatures that dominated the planet's surface. They watched as these beings constructed towering cities, crossed vast oceans, and even sent primitive vessels into their own atmosphere. "They call themselves humans," reported the linguistics specialist after intercepting communications. "They appear to be omnivores with predator characteristics." The team observed humans for several days, documenting their behaviors. What they discovered sent waves of unease through the crew. "They have no special physical advantages," noted Trell during the briefing. "No claws, weak jaws, thin skin, average speed. Yet they've become the dominant species through tool use and social cooperation." "That's not unusual for intelligent species," Vax countered. "True, but their adaptability is unprecedented. They inhabit nearly every ecosystem on their planet, from frozen wastelands to scorching deserts. They've modified their environment rather than evolving to suit it." Security Officer Draz, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. "They're constantly at war with each other. Their history is filled with conflict, yet they continue to advance technologically. Most species self-destruct at this stage." The final observation came from Krell, who had been studying human physical capabilities. "Commander, they display a behavior called persistence hunting. They pursue prey until it collapses from exhaustion. They don't outrun their targets. They simply never stop." A heavy silence fell over the command center. "Recommendation?" Vax finally asked. "Standard protocol would suggest immediate contact," Trell said hesitantly. "But I recommend we establish a covert observation post first. There's something about these humans that warrants further study before formal introduction." Vax stared at the blue-green planet on the main display. For the first time in his distinguished career, he felt a strange sensation, something close to fear. "Agreed," he said quietly. "We will watch them. The Confederation should know what we're dealing with before we reveal ourselves." He turned to his crew. "This world, Earth, may be more significant than we realize." 50 years passed since the Celestial Observer first discovered Earth. What began as a simple observation post had grown into the Confederation's largest research station, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Hundreds of scientists from dozens of alien species now dedicated their careers to studying the planet and its dominant inhabitants. Commander Vax, now Research Director Vax, stood before the Galactic Council's quarterly briefing. His once vibrant scales had dulled with age, but his 4 eyes remained sharp and alert. Humans continue to surprise us, Vax reported, projecting images of Earth's rapid development. In just 5 decades, they'd gone from primitive chemical rockets to establishing colonies on their moon and neighboring planet. Counselor Zith leaned forward. How is this possible? Their technological growth rate exceeds that of any known species. They compete constantly, Vax explained. Nations, corporations, even individuals, all racing to achieve more than their neighbors. What we initially saw as destructive competition actually drives their innovation. The lead xenobiologist, Dr. Mixed, took over the presentation. Their physical capabilities deserve special attention. Our latest research confirms humans possess remarkable endurance. The display showed human athletes running distances that would exhaust most sentient species. While they cannot match the speed of many predators, humans can maintain movement for hours or even days. Before they developed weapons, they would chase prey until it collapsed from heat exhaustion. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Their bodies are uniquely designed for this, Dr. Mix continued. Efficient cooling through sweat glands, bipedal movement conserving energy, and respiratory systems that can adjust to various oxygen levels. The security chief, General Draz, now aged but still imposing, stepped forward. Their problem-solving abilities present the greatest concern. Observe. The display showed humans in various challenging situations, natural disasters, mechanical failures, conflicts, and their innovative solutions. They create tools for every situation. Draz noted. When faced with a new problem, they rarely give up. Instead, they adapt existing tools or create new ones. This trait makes them unpredictable in potential conflict scenarios. A newer member of the research team, psychologist Len, took the floor next. Most concerning is their psychological makeup. Humans form strong tribal bonds, but can quickly expand their definition of tribe when faced with common threats. Meaning? Asked a council member. Meaning they fight viciously among themselves until a bigger threat appears. Then they unite with surprising effectiveness, Len explained. Additionally, they exhibit a trait we've labeled spite, a willingness to endure personal harm to inflict damage on an enemy. The room fell silent as the implications settled in. They also possess something remarkable, Vax added, his voice softer now. Hope. Even in impossible situations, humans believe they can succeed. It defies logic but drives extraordinary achievements. The head counselor stood slowly. Your recommendation, Director Vax. Vax hesitated, feeling the weight of 50 years of observation. Humans have detected our presence 3 times in the past decade. Their technology will soon make concealment impossible. We have 2 options. Establish formal contact or implement containment protocols. Containment of an entire species, gasped one counselor. If deemed necessary for galactic security, Draz replied grimly. After hours of debate, the council reached their decision. Earth would not be contained. Instead, diplomatic contact would be established. The Confederation would welcome humans, cautiously. As the meeting adjourned, Vax remained alone, watching the holographic image of Earth rotate slowly before him. The little blue planet seemed so ordinary, yet it had produced beings unlike any the galaxy had ever known. May we never regret this decision, he whispered to himself. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Confederation headquarters buzzed with excitement and tension. Massive crystalline chandeliers cast rainbow patterns across the polished stone floor as representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered for the historic moment. Today, Earth would officially join the interstellar community. Ambassador Jack Miller led the small human delegation, his weathered face betraying no emotion as he approached the central platform. Though only in his 50s, he carried himself with the quiet confidence that had made him Earth's unanimous choice for first contact diplomat. We welcome Earth to the Confederation of United Worlds. announced High Minister Zell, his translucent appendages glowing a formal blue. May this alliance bring prosperity to all our peoples. The treaty signing proceeded smoothly, but across the hall, whispered conversations revealed lingering concerns. "They're so fragile-looking," remarked one four-armed delegate to another. How did these soft creatures become the dominant species on their world? 3 months later, the first group of 20 humans arrived at the Confederation Academy. The prestigious institution had trained officers and specialists for millennia, and now humans would join its ranks. Academy Director Trell, who had once served as a junior biologist on the original Earth observation mission, watched the newcomers with professional interest. "Begin physical assessment," she instructed her staff. What followed shocked even the most experienced trainers. While humans lacked the strength of many species and possessed no natural weapons, their endurance tests broke all previous records. "They've been running for 6 hours," reported fitness instructor Kren, his exoskeleton clicking nervously. The female, Lisa, shows no signs of stopping, and the others are merely talking while they run. In tactical training, humans demonstrated another unexpected quality. When the rest of their squad was eliminated during a simulation, Cadet David Park refused to surrender. Instead, he adapted his strategy, using the environment in ways the trainers had never considered. "He's treating the simulation as if his life actually depends on it," observed Combat Master Vool with a mixture of admiration and concern. The most alarming incident occurred during the diplomatic response exercise. When presented with a scenario involving the potential destruction of Earth, the human cadets unanimously chose continued resistance rather than surrender. "We would rebuild elsewhere," explained Cadet Robert Taylor matter-of-factly. "Humans don't give up. It's not in our nature." Meanwhile, on Earth, Confederation ambassadors were making equally startling discoveries about their new allies. Ambassador Lin filed her weekly report with trembling limbs. Humans expose themselves to mortal danger for recreational purposes. Today I witnessed individuals jumping from high platforms with elastic cords attached to their ankles. When I expressed concern, they laughed and invited me to try this bungee jumping activity. 6 months into the alliance, the Confederation Military Command requested human advisors for joint exercises. The humans' creative approach to problem-solving proved invaluable, though often disturbing to their alien counterparts. They suggested we use psychological warfare, General Draz informed the Security Council, making our enemies believe we are more numerous and dangerous than we actually are. It's unsettling how effectively they employ deception. As the first year of the alliance concluded, Vax, now retired but serving as special advisor, addressed the council one final time. "We were right to welcome humans into our community," he said, his once vibrant scales now almost white with age. "Their unique perspective strengthens us, but we must remember that their evolutionary path differs fundamentally from our own. They come from a world where survival required not just strength or speed, but relentless determination." He paused, his 4 eyes scanning the chamber. "We have allied ourselves with potentially the most dangerous beings in the universe. Let us ensure they remain our friends." 5 years into the alliance, the starship Horizon drifted powerless in the void between star systems. Captain Ben Walker paced the darkened bridge, the emergency lights casting an eerie red glow across his determined face. "Life support is down to 18 hours, reported First Officer Lisa Chen, her voice steady despite the dire situation. "Engineering says the main reactor is beyond repair." The Horizon carried a mixed crew of humans and 6 other Confederation species. It was meant to be a routine diplomatic mission. Now it was a test of survival. "The nearest outpost is 3 days away at maximum speed," said Navigator Krell, his scaled features tight with worry. "Even if we could send a distress signal, help would arrive too late." Captain Walker stopped pacing. "We have the backup shuttle. It only carries 15 passengers." Lisa reminded him. "We have 43 crew members." "I'm aware," Walker said quietly. The Draxian crew members can enter hibernation. That gets us down to 34. The shuttle can maintain life support for 15 people for 3 days, or for 34 people for 30 hours, Krell finished, his eyes widening. But the pilots would need to remain conscious the entire time. I'll fly it, Walker stated. Humans can go without sleep longer than most species here. The alien crew members exchanged concerned glances. Captain, began Medical Officer Trez, her luminescent tentacles pulsing with anxiety. Humans require regular sleep cycles just like. We can push through, Walker interrupted. Our military history is filled with examples of soldiers operating for days under extreme conditions. The tension on the bridge grew as the alien crew realized what their human colleagues had known all along. Humans could endure hardships that would kill other species. 30 hours later, the shuttle Lifeline limped into the Outpost 47 docking bay. Captain Walker, having piloted manually for the entire journey, collapsed as soon as the airlock sealed. But all 43 crew members survived. News of the Horizon incident spread quickly through the Confederation. What humans considered an impressive but not extraordinary feat of endurance, other species viewed with growing fascination and fear. The Confederation Science Council convened an emergency session to discuss the human question. They are physically weaker than Kralvarians, slower than Nizari, less technologically advanced than Proxians, stated Research Director Mix, displaying comparative charts. Yet they survive situations that would destroy any of us. It's not just their physical resilience, added psychologist Len. Their mental adaptability exceeds our models. When faced with impossible odds, they don't calculate probabilities. They simply refuse to accept defeat. In the Confederation Military Academy, human cadets were now breaking records across all training programs. Instructor Vool watched as a human student named James Ross completed the endurance course in half the expected time. How did you maintain that pace? Vool asked, genuinely curious. Ross shrugged. I just imagined a predator was chasing me. But there was no actual threat, Vool said, confused. Doesn't matter. Humans can motivate themselves with imagined scenarios, Ross explained. We call it mental toughness. This revelation sent shockwaves through Confederation leadership. A species that could push itself to extremes without external pressure was unprecedented. The final awakening came during a border skirmish with raiders from beyond Confederation space, when the pirate vessel captured a Confederation transport carrying both alien and human passengers. They expected the usual ransom negotiation. Instead, the humans organized a resistance, freed the other prisoners, and hijacked the pirate ship, all within 12 hours of capture. They never considered themselves defeated, reported one stunned Proxian survivor. Even when chained and outnumbered, they were simply waiting for their moment. As reports of the incident reached Confederation headquarters, High Minister Zal stared out at the stars, a chill running through his translucent form. We never truly understood what we invited into our midst, he whispered. Earth didn't just produce one dangerous species, it created the most dangerous beings in the universe. The emergency alarm echoed through the Confederation Council chambers. The normally composed delegates rushed to their seats as High Minister Zal activated the central holographic display. The Vorax Empire has crossed the outer rim defensive line, he announced, his translucent skin pulsing with grave colors. 3 colony worlds have already fallen. The massive display showed a wave of red markers advancing steadily toward Confederation space. The Vorax, a mysterious species from a distant galaxy, had appeared 6 months ago. Initial diplomatic contact had failed catastrophically. They consume everything, reported Admiral Krell, his once young scales now bearing the marks of a long military career. Resources, technology, even other species. They strip planets bare before moving to the next. Our defense fleet, asked a delegate from the aquatic immersion worlds. Outmatched, Krell admitted. The Vorax ships use technology we've never encountered. Traditional energy weapons seem ineffective against their shielding. The Council erupted into panicked discussions. Confederation species had lived in relative peace for millennia. Few remembered true existential warfare. What about the humans? The question came from an unexpected source, elderly Director Mix, who had spent decades studying Earth. The chamber fell silent. The humans have shown remarkable tactical thinking, Mix continued. Their history is filled with warfare. Perhaps they might see something we've missed. Hours later, a small group of human military advisors stood before the Confederation War Council. Major Anna Wilson led the human delegation, her combat experience evident in both her posture and the faded scar running along her jawline. "We've reviewed your tactical data," she began without preamble. "Your current defensive strategy won't work against the Voraks." Several council members bristled at her bluntness. "Your fleet maintains perfect formations and follows established protocols," Wilson continued. "That makes you predictable. The Voraks are adapting to your patterns. These strategies have been refined over centuries," protested Admiral Zenith of the Proxian Fleet. "For fighting conventional enemies," Wilson countered. "The Voraks aren't conventional. They're predators, like the apex hunters from our world." She activated her own display, showing ancient Earth predators, wolves hunting in packs, lions ambushing prey, even primitive humans using coordinated attacks. "Predators exploit patterns," explained Wilson. "To defeat them, you must become unpredictable, use misdirection, and target weaknesses they don't know they have." "What do you propose?" asked Krell, ignoring the outraged murmurs from his colleagues. Wilson's eyes hardened. "Tactics your people will find disturbing. Ambushes, sacrificial feints, psychological warfare, hit-and-run attacks rather than honorable direct engagement. These suggestions violate our military codes," objected a Kralvarian general. "We do not employ deception in warfare." "Then you will lose," Wilson stated flatly. "The Voraks don't care about your codes. They want your worlds, your resources, your people. Sometimes survival requires actions we find distasteful." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. High Minister Zal finally spoke. "What would Earth do in our position?" Wilson exchanged glances with her human colleagues before answering. "Earth would fight. Not just with ships and weapons, but with every resource available. We would study the enemy, find their weaknesses, and strike where they least expect it. We would make them fear us." Fear. The concept seemed alien to many council members. "Yes," Wilson nodded gravely. "Humans learned long ago that sometimes the most effective weapon against a predator is becoming a more dangerous predator yourself." After hours of heated debate, the council reached a reluctant decision. For the first time in Confederation history, they would appoint a foreign advisor to their supreme military command. Major Wilson would help coordinate the defense against the Voraks threat. As the council adjourned, Admiral Krell approached Wilson privately. "I've studied your species for decades," he said quietly. "There's something you're not telling us about human warfare, isn't there?" Wilson's expression remained neutral, but her eyes held something Krell had never seen in any other species, a cold, calculating readiness that predated civilization itself. "We haven't even begun to show you what humans are capable of when truly threatened," she replied. The observation deck of the Confederation flagship Eternal Vigilance hummed with tense energy. Major Anna Wilson stood with Admiral Krell, watching the tactical display as it tracked the movement of ships throughout the Vega sector. "The Voraks fleet will arrive in 6 hours," Krell noted, his scaled fingers tapping nervously on the console. "They outnumber us 3-1. Wilson nodded calmly. "Numbers won't matter. Operation Trojan is in position." 3 months had passed since humans joined the Confederation war effort. The initial results had been mixed. Early victories followed by crushing defeats as the Voraks adapted. But something had changed in recent weeks. The human advisors had grown quieter, more focused, as if tapping into something primal. "I still don't understand how this plan will work," Krell admitted. It's based on an ancient Earth strategy, Wilson explained. The Vorax expect us to defend this system conventionally. Instead, we're going to let them in. The plan was dangerously unconventional. Disabled Confederation ships had been positioned as bait, seemingly abandoned after a hasty retreat. In reality, each vessel contained a skeleton crew of human volunteers, waiting in silence. 6 hours later, the Vorax fleet arrived, massive harvesters moving confidently toward the seemingly defenseless system. Their sensors detected the abandoned ships and, as predicted, moved to salvage the valuable technology. "They've taken the bait," reported Communications Officer Trez. "Human teams confirm boarding has begun." Wilson's eyes never left the display. Now we wait. Inside the lead Vorax harvester, Captain Mark Reed and his team moved silently through alien corridors. Each human carried minimal weapons. This wasn't about firepower, but about precision and timing. "Remember," Reed whispered to his team, "we have one shot at this. Plant the disruptors at key junction points, then move to extraction." The humans had discovered the Vorax ships shared a synchronized control system. A simultaneous disruption across multiple vessels would create a cascade failure, but only if perfectly coordinated. Back on the Asterisk, Eternal Vigilance Asterisk, Wilson watched as the operation unfolded. "Initiate Phase 2, she ordered. Across the system, the remaining Confederation fleet emerged from hiding places within the system's asteroid field. Not in perfect formation as Vorax intelligence expected, but in a chaotic, unpredictable pattern designed to cause maximum confusion. "The Vorax are adjusting their formation," Krell observed with surprise. "They're attempting to create a defensive perimeter." "Exactly as we hoped," Wilson said. "They're pulling ships from the center to reinforce their flanks." Inside the Vorax vessels, human teams fought with a ferocity that shocked even their enemies. When cornered, they didn't surrender as other species might. Instead, they became more dangerous, more determined. "Disruptors planted," came Reed's strained voice over the comm. "But we're cut off from extraction point." Heavy resistance. Wilson's face remained impassive, though Krell noticed her knuckles whitening as she gripped the console. "Can you reach secondary extraction?" "Negative," Reed replied, the sound of weapons fire in the background. "But we can still trigger the disruptors." A heavy silence fell across the command deck. "Understood, Captain," Wilson finally responded. "Your sacrifice will not be forgotten." "Just make it count," Reed said before the transmission cut off. Moments later, synchronized explosions rippled across the Vorax fleet. Ship after ship lost power as their control systems failed catastrophically. "All ships, advance," ordered Admiral Krell, seizing the moment. The battle that followed lasted 76 hours. Human crews refused relief, fighting without sleep, their bodies pushed beyond what other species thought possible. They operated on a biological reserve that evolution had built into their systems, a final desperate resource from their predator past. When the last Vorax ship had been destroyed or captured, Admiral Krell found Wilson still at her post, eyes bloodshot but alert. "How?" he asked simply. "How did your people keep fighting?" Wilson's exhausted face showed a grim smile. "On Earth, we have a saying. The most dangerous animal is a cornered one. When survival is at stake, humans find strength we didn't know we had." Krell studied her with new understanding. The Vorax were predators, but they never faced anything like humans before. "No," Wilson agreed quietly. "They never met a species that evolved to become the apex predator of their world." The Grand Memorial Plaza stretched across what was once the battlefield of Vega Prime. Thousands of beings from across the Confederation gathered beneath the massive monument, a simple obelisk of black stone engraved with names from 100 worlds. 10 years had passed since the final battle against the Vorax Empire. The war had been won, but at tremendous cost. Entire species reduced to scattered survivors. Planets rendered uninhabitable. A generation marked forever by conflict. Admiral Anna Wilson, now bearing the highest honors the Confederation could bestow, stood beside High Minister Zal as the ceremony began. Her once dark hair had turned silver, and new scars joined the old one on her face. "We gather to remember not just those we lost," Zal began, his translucent form glowing softly in the evening light, "but the unity that saved us all." The crowd fell silent as the memorial lights activated, projecting the images of fallen heroes into the sky above. Humans stood alongside beings from across the galaxy, all equals in sacrifice. After the public ceremony, the Confederation High Council convened in private. The mood was somber but resolute as they addressed the question that had lingered since the war's end. "The reconstruction efforts proceed ahead of schedule," reported Councillor Mix, now one of the eldest members, "thanks in large part to human engineering teams." "And what of the captured Vorax technology?" asked a representative from the Proxian worlds. "Secured," answered Wilson. "Research continues under joint supervision." High Minister Zal raised his appendages for attention. "We face a more fundamental question today. The war revealed truths about our allies from Earth, truths that both saved us and give us pause." The chamber's mood shifted perceptibly. "Humans proved to be warriors unlike any the galaxy has known," continued Zal. "Their capacity for violence when threatened exceeded even the Vorax. Yet they also showed remarkable restraint in victory, offering mercy where none was expected." Wilson remained expressionless, though she knew where this conversation led. "The historical records we studied from Earth are troubling," added Councillor Trez. "Humans nearly destroyed themselves multiple times before achieving unity. Their evolutionary path created not just one dangerous species, but a planet of potential predators." "What are you suggesting?" Wilson asked quietly. "A special designation," Zal explained. "Earth would be recognized as a protected homeworld with unique status in the Confederation. Human colonies would continue, but certain restrictions would apply to military expansion." Wilson had expected this. Fear was a natural response, even among allies. Humans had revealed capabilities during the war that shocked even themselves: endurance beyond reason, tactical thinking that bordered on predatory, a collective will that refused to break even when logic dictated surrender. "Earth will accept protected status," Wilson finally said, surprising many in the chamber, "but not restrictions. We've earned the right to be trusted." The debate continued for hours before reaching a compromise. Earth would indeed receive special status, not as a constrained potential threat, but as the recognized home of the Confederation's most valuable defenders. Later, as Wilson walked the quiet memorial grounds alone, Admiral Krell joined her. Age had dulled his scales, but his eyes remained sharp. "You knew they would fear us after seeing what humans are capable of," he said. "It wasn't a question." Wilson nodded. "Fear is a natural response to something you don't understand. Humans know that better than most." "Will your people accept being viewed differently?" "We've always been different," Wilson replied, looking up at the stars. "Earth produced something unique, beings capable of terrible destruction and remarkable creation. The Council is right to recognize that." Krell followed her gaze to the night sky. The reports from the frontier mentioned a new threat gathering beyond the outer rim, something perhaps worse than the Vorax. Wilson's expression didn't change, but something ancient and dangerous flickered in her eyes, the look of a predator assessing a challenge. "Then they'll learn what the Vorax discovered," she said quietly. "The most dangerous beings in the universe all came from a small blue planet that most species once considered unremarkable." As they stood in silence, the memorial lights continued to shine upward, not just in remembrance of what was lost, but as a warning to whatever might threaten the galaxy next.